Hello and welcome back to our Angular tutorial series. Today we're going to explore the exciting world of Angular directives. Specifically, we'll delve into built-in structural directives like ngFor, ngIf, and ngSwitch. These powerful tools are essential for controlling the structure of your Angular applications. So let's dive right in. In Angular, directives are essentially classes that modify or add new behaviors to elements in your template. There are three types of directives in Angular. First, we have component directives. Think of them as Angular components with templates. They're the building blocks of any Angular app. For instance, something like app my custom component, a component directive. Next, we have attribute directives. These change the appearance or behavior of an element. So if we had something like app my component, let's take ng class as an example. Ng class equals double quotation marks. So we passed in a single quote, string literal. You could also do something like some CSS class, and this variable would resolve to a CSS class name. And finally, we have structural directives. These are what we're focusing on today. They can add, remove, or manipulate elements in the DOM, effectively shaping or reshaping the structure of your application. Let's go into a little bit more detail about the built-in structural directives. Angular provides some built-in structural directives that are incredibly useful. ngFor lets you iterate over a data structure in your component class, adding elements dynamically to your template. ngIf is used to conditionally create or destroy elements. ngSwitch works like a switch statement, but for your templates. Let's start with ngFor. Imagine you have an array of items in your component, and you want to display each item in a list. Let's see how this is done. We'll start with a new Angular project. We'll just use the pre-generated app component. So go to the app-component.ts file, and let's create an array of data. For simplicity, I asked ChatGPT to provide me a TypeScript array of the original Pokemon. So using ngFor will display this list of Pokemon in our app component. So let's add a div. We'll create an ordered list, and here's when we're going to use ngFor. ngFor structural directive equals, and then the name of the list, which is original Pokemon. Let Pokemon of original Pokemon, and then we'll add the value, and we'll bind the value in the contents of the list item. Go to localhost 4200. All 151 original Pokemon are displayed as list items on our page. Okay, now that we've demonstrated ngFor, let's look at using ngIf with the same thing. So what we're going to do is we are going to take all Pokemon from A through I, J through R, S through Z or Z. A through I corresponds to 0 to 8 in terms of their position in the alphabet, 9 to 17, and 18 to 25. We're using 0 index, so 0 to 25 is 26 letters. So basically, we'll have three groups. So we'll take the first letter of the Pokemon name, make it into lowercase, and then whatever that letter is, if it falls within one of these three groups, we'll display a different color. The first thing we need to do is call a function. So let's say div ngIf equals, and we'll say is group 1. We'll have to create this function. So let's go ahead and do that. You can ignore these other values for now. Is group 1. You don't have to say that it returns a boolean, but it is good practice. I guess lowercase boolean maybe. And we'll say create group 1 alpha. Group 1 alpha. String is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Let's do group 2 alpha while we're at it. Group 3 alpha. Is group 1, we'll take a parameter, which will be first letter, which will just be a single length string, and we'll return group 1 alpha includes first letter. Let's do the same thing for group 2 and 3. So this takes the first letter of the Pokemon, and we'll use the string char at position 0, and that has to be to lowercase since we're comparing the first letter with lowercase values in group 1 alpha. So if we're displaying is group 1 and that's true, let's just test it by seeing if the Pokemon will draw. A through I, double check. Yep, that looks correct. If that's true, any Pokemon in this group will get displayed with a different background color. Let's maybe just try blue. Group alpha class, and we'll add that to app-component.css. Let's just change the font color to white. Save that, check again, and that looks good. Now let's do the same thing for group 2 and 3. Now they're all showing up, all 151 Pokemon, but they need to have different colors. So let's just say group beta, and I'm not sure why I decided to call them group alpha beta. Doesn't really matter, I suppose. Background color, let's pick something else like aquamarine, group gamma, and let's just make that orange. And update the class name for group 3. Take a look at localhost, and it looks like it's working as expected. So that's it for ngIf. Let's move on to ngSwitch. For ngSwitch, we will be creating a new function to evaluate whether it's group 1, 2, or 3. And then depending on if it's group 1, 2, or 3, we'll display one of the 3 groups, alpha, beta, or gamma. Let's go ahead and create a function called getGroupNumber, which will return a number. And it'll be based on the first letter of the Pokemon, first letter. And we'll say if is group 1, first letter, return 0, else if this dot is group 2, return 1, else if this dot is group 3, first letter, return 2, return -1 in the default case. Now let's add the ngSwitch syntax, div ngSwitch, and we'll call the function, pass in the Pokemon character at 0 to lowercase. Now let's add the 3 cases, group 0, group 1, and 2, and ngSwitch default. Let's go ahead and add group alpha, beta, and gamma to the different switch cases, and we'll just display none if the ngSwitch getGroupNumber value resolves to something that we did not expect. So let's go ahead and save that, refresh, and it looks like we get the same result. And that wraps up our quick tour of Angular's built-in structural directives. I hope this tutorial has shed some light on how ngFor, if, and ngSwitch can be used to control your application structure dynamically. Thanks for watching, and remember that practice is key to mastering Angular. Go ahead and try implementing these directives in your own projects and see how they can simplify complex tasks. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future videos, please leave a comment below. Catch you next time.